This is the Sony ECM-M1, a very tiny directional shotgun microphone that I have been very curious about ever since it came out last year in July of 2023. This microphone, as you can see, is super compact, but it's supposed to have very good sound quality despite being very small. And it has another trick up its sleeve. It is wireless. So when you're using it with compatible cameras, which I'll talk about later on in this video, it can attach to the multi-interface shoe of a camera, and you don't have to use that traditional 3.5mm microphone cable, which I am always forgetting to carry with me. So in this video, I want to know if it's worth the $350 that it costs, and also how it compares in terms of sound quality and ease of use to RØDE microphones, which is what I have been using for the past few years that I've been doing YouTube. But before we get started, I do want to disclose that this is a microphone that was loaned to me by a friend. This is not sponsored by Sony or anybody else. Nobody has paid me to say anything or told me what to say. These are my honest opinions about this microphone, and I'm reviewing it because I am genuinely very curious about it. So I've now attached the ECM-M1. Attaching it was super easy. This microphone is one of several Sony microphones that are out there that does not require a cable to attach it to a camera. As a result, it is limited in what cameras you can use it on. So in this case, we are using it with the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. We can use it with most modern Sony cameras. I'll leave a link to the compatibility list below. But basically you have to have a Sony camera, or at least a camera with a multi-interface shoe. And as far as I know, I think Sony might be the only camera makers out there that have this type of shoe, but correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, this is the very first Sony microphone that I'm testing out, and I'm very curious. I've already heard some sound samples, so I know that compared to the built-in microphone, this sounds really great. So the truck has gone by. It's not as close as it was, but I went ahead and enabled that noise cancellation feature on the microphone. This is what it sounds like. Again, I happened to do that when all the noise disappeared. But since I am talking about the settings on this microphone, that is something that I noticed right off the bat. Compared to some of these other microphones, which I will introduce in just a little bit, this Sony microphone, like most Sony products, is a little bit more complicated in that there are quite a few settings on it. So it's a microphone that you probably want to test out a little bit before you actually take it on a shoot, because you need to know what settings are best for whatever it is you want to record. So some of those settings include that noise cancellation feature, or the low cut filter that I just enabled. You can also pick the directional, I don't know what it's called, the pickup pattern, I suppose, of the microphone. So where it's going to concentrate the sound and pick up that sound and block out the rest of it. So right now I have it on a very tight directional pattern. So it's really going to pick up whatever's right in front of the camera. If I move over to the side here, now I'm on the right side of the camera, and this is what it sounds like back to the front of the camera. So you're probably going to hear it best if I'm directly in front of the camera because of that pickup pattern that I've chosen. Now I've stretched that pickup pattern to be even wider. So if I move off to the sides of the camera, again, I'm going to go over to the camera right here, and this is what it sounds like from this side of the camera. Going behind the camera now, going over to the left side of the camera, and making my way back to the front of the camera. This is what it sounds like using this pickup pattern. So it gives me a little bit more leeway to be on the sides of the camera. For this next mode, I've chosen it to be all directions. So I should be able to be pretty much on any side of the microphone, whether it's in front of the camera, to the side of the camera, to the back of the camera now, to the other side of the camera, and I should still be able to be picked up pretty well, no matter where I am in proximity to this microphone here, using this mode. For this next mode, it concentrates the pickup pattern to the back of the microphone. So I'm standing directly behind the microphone. This could be, good for if I want to narrate a scene, but not necessarily be in it myself. And again, if I go over to the sides of the camera, or even the front of the camera, I'm going to guess that I'm not going to be able to be picked up as well as if I'm directly behind the camera. This next mode here concentrates the pickup pattern to be directly behind the microphone or directly in front of the microphone. So right now I'm behind the microphone. I'm going to make my way to the side of the camera to be in front of the camera. So here I am now. So this could be a really good mode to use if you're going to do like an interview style video where someone's behind the camera asking questions and the person in front of the camera is responding. This would be a really good mode to use in a scenario like that. So this is what it sounds like. So I've been through 5 of the 7 settings on this microphone. Like I said, there are quite a few of them. The remaining 2 are stereo audio options. So the first 5 pickup patterns that we did are recording mono or single track audio. If you want to record 2-track or stereo audio, that's when you would use either of these 2 modes. So the first one is the same pickup pattern as before, where it concentrates the sound in the front of the camera or on the back of the camera. The main difference is that it breaks it into 2 different audio tracks, so it makes it a little bit more flexible when you want to edit that audio in post-production. And the final mode here is regular stereo mode. So honestly, I'm not really sure what the pickup pattern is here, but I just know that it creates 2 audio tracks that you can edit in post-production. So let's go ahead and test out that pickup pattern. I'm going to start to make my way around the camera, now be behind it and to the side of it, and this is what it sounds like. And make my way to the front of the camera while still talking so we can hear the audio quality difference. So the other microphones that I want to compare to the Sony directional microphone are by RØDE. If you've been in the video making sphere, you've probably heard of RØDE, you've probably used their products. I feel like every person getting started with video starts out with RØDE because they're just ubiquitous with microphones, and they make really affordable microphones. So I've used all of these microphones at some point in my video making career. I still do, in fact, because they're just so good. But one of the many kind of restrictions of these RØDE microphones is that you have to use this 3.5mm microphone cable. It's not the end of the world, honestly, but it's something you have to carry with you, and sometimes I forget to bring it with me. Or you can also break it because it sticks out on the side of your camera. So I have broken these cables before. And if you do that, then you can't use your microphone. This is a sound test of the ZV-E10 Mark II using the built-in capsule microphone. The camera is an arm's length away. I've got a waterfall directly behind the camera, so we're testing out how well this microphone can isolate my voice and cut out any background noise. So this is a sound test with the RØDE Video Micro on top of the ZV-E10 Mark II. This is what it sounds like. The camera is an arm's length away and I'm standing directly in front of the microphone. I'm going to go ahead and make a little circle around it as well so you can hear the difference. If I'm on another side of the microphone, this is what it sounds like. And now I am making my way back to the front of the camera. So in front of the camera, this again is what it sounds like with the RØDE Video Micro. Now testing out the RØDE Video Mic Go 2 on top of the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. So we've got the camera an arm's length away. This is what it sounds like. Standing directly in front of it, I'm going to go ahead and make my circle so we can hear how well this microphone isolates to the front of the camera, or with the front of the microphone truly. So making my way back to the front of the microphone, this is what it sounds like using the RØDE Video Mic Go 2. This is a sound test with the RØDE NTG microphone on the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. Camera is an arm's length away. This is what it sounds like if I'm standing in front of the microphone. I'm going to go ahead and make my circle around the microphone while still talking so you can hear just how well this microphone concentrates the audio. Making my way back to the front of the microphone. This is what it sounds like with the RØDE NTG microphone. Next up, we're testing out the Sony ECM-M1 microphone on top of the camera. Camera is an arm's length away, and we're using that really narrow pickup pattern and also no noise cancellation. So this is what it sounds like using this microphone. Again, with that waterfall behind the camera. I'll go ahead and make my circle around how well it does at concentrating the pickup pattern to being in front of the camera. Now I turned on the noise cancellation on the Sony ECM-M1, so this is what it sounds like. We still have that narrow pickup pattern, so it should be honing in on my voice and hopefully not picking up too much of the ambient sound around me, but this is what it sounds like. Now I went ahead and enabled the LC feature on the microphone, so this is what it sounds like. Still has that narrow pickup pattern. I'm still an arm's length away from the camera and the microphone. This is what it sounds like. So now you've heard the comparisons between these microphones. Let's talk more about how these mics performed, as well as some specific features of each mic, because they all have their pros and their cons. Starting with the Sony mic, it is the most expensive at $350 US, but it's also among the smallest mics. I think it actually is the smallest mic. Now the biggest advantage, besides the size, is that you can choose from 8 different pickup patterns to hone in on the sound to a specific area and avoid picking up noise around. This is something that you can't do on any of the Rode microphones in this test, but it does mean that you need to set up the pickup pattern for each filming scenario. Similarly, there are a lot of other settings on this mic, like the noise cut or low cut filters, so it takes a lot of fiddling to figure out the best settings. The multi-interface shoe connection is sort of a pro, but it's also a con. It's nice if you shoot on a Sony camera that supports it, because you can be cable-free. However, you're limited to using this microphone only with Sony cameras that have that multi-interface shoe. You can't use it with other devices like phones, computers, and non-Sony cameras, like you can with almost all of the Rode mics in this test. Now moving on to Rode, the Rode Video Micro is the cheapest mic of the bunch. It's very small, but the Sony is actually a little bit smaller. Now the Rode Video Micro is super easy to use, you just plug and play. But that does mean that you have no control over the settings on this microphone. It runs on plug-in power similar to the Sony mic, so there's no battery that needs to be charged. And there's also an optional furry windscreen to block out the wind noise. But adding this windscreen makes this microphone huge. In terms of audio quality, I do think it's a definite improvement over using the built-in microphone on the camera, but the audio isn't as clean and targeted as some of these other microphones. Next up is the Rode Video Mic Go 2, which costs $99 US. Now, like the Rode Video Micro, it is nice because it's plug and play, but again, you have no control over the microphone settings. The windscreen is also quite bulky. But one major advantage of this microphone that even the Sony doesn't offer is that it's compatible with cameras as well as phones and computers, because you can connect it via USB-C or the 3.5mm microphone jack. The audio quality on this mic is a step up from both the Rode Video Micro and the internal camera microphones. But I'm not sure that it quite compares to the Sony's audio quality. The final Rode contender here is the Rode Video Mic NTG, which costs $250. So it's not as expensive as the Sony, but it is quite pricier compared to the other Rode options in this test. It's also by far the largest microphone, and it gets even bigger if you add the furry windscreen. Now, like the Rode Video Mic Go 2, the NTG is not limited to be used with cameras. It can also be used with phones and computers. You can also plug headphones into the 3.5mm jack to monitor the audio, which is something that you can't do on the Sony mic. The NTG also has a variable gain switch, a high-pass filter, and an optional safety channel. In my opinion, the main cons of this microphone are the size, and also the fact that it has a rechargeable battery, so you have to make sure that it's charged before using. So is it worth paying $350 for this Sony ECM-M1 microphone? Well, for starters, if you don't own a Sony camera with a multi-interface shoe, then no, because you can't use it. But if you do have a compatible Sony camera, then the ECM-M1 might be worth it if you value its compact size and the lack of cables. It also doesn't have a battery that needs to be charged like the Rode NTG. The Sony also has a bunch of settings that you need to fiddle with and optimize, versus some of the cheaper Rode options that are plug and play. Overall, because I value compact gear that outputs high quality, I do recommend it for Sony shooters out there. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.